I don't feel like anybody's teaching anyone about mortgages. We don't learn it in school. I wish that we did, but unfortunately we don't, at least not right now. And I kind of just took all of that knowledge that I had and keep relaying it into the world because
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Influencers, where we bring you professionals who share insight into the latest trends, tips, industry technology, and services to help you be a mortgage influencer in your mortgage business. Well, I'm going to take us live. We are streaming. And we want to welcome you. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Mortgage Influencers. My name is Ginger Bell, and I have with me Scott Schang today. And I have a special guest who I am so excited to chat with today. And that is the TikTok superstar, new mother extraordinaire, Miss Jordan Nutter. So Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Catching up at the beginning when we were getting logged on, that Jordan is a new first-time mother. So congratulations. Welcome to motherhood.
Thank you. It's exciting.
And I'm loving
so
some
far.
of the posts that you're putting on social. You have an adorable one holding Charlie and saying, I think the caption was, how can you get any work done? And she's in your arms. And so we have a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to dive right in and really just, I love your story of how you got started, Jordan. So if you can maybe kind of walk us through that, and then we'll, journey into the world of TikTok. So you started out and you're in Georgia, but you were living in California at the time when you were recruited, right?
Yeah, so I was living in California, and I had a longtime friend that lived in Georgia, and that's where the company at the time was based. And I kind of reached out, and I was in transition of like, what do I really want to do? I want a career and not just a job. And so I reached out to her, and she's like, you know what? Sure, why not? And so I ended up moving to Georgia kind of on a whim after I passed my licensing test and met with everyone. They were happy to sign me on, and I kind of just ran with it. And then COVID hit, and it was one of those things where I didn't have anything to do but really learn mortgages, which I'm very grateful for, because had COVID not hit at that time, I probably wouldn't have learned as much information as I did in such a short amount of time. So that really helped push my career to where I could help a lot more people and learn a lot more, and kind of broaden my book to be able to help on different loan programs that I don't think I wouldn't have learned as quickly. So that kind of rolled. And obviously everyone had a great year in 2020 when it came to mortgages, and 21. And then we kind of halted last year. And thankfully I started doing social media more in October of 2021. And that really helped last year with my business, and even it continues to help now. So very grateful for that.
Well, and grateful is a very gracious word to use, but I call it smart. Being able to stick with it. I think that's one of those things that when the market shifts, people kind of like, what do I do? And you said you dove right in. So I love that. The changes obviously with COVID, you dove right in. The changes as far as the market last year, and you dove right in. So, one of the things that you have is that mindset, and you may not even be aware of that. But I think that's something that is definitely beneficial for you. But having the ability to learn and not be afraid to learn and put yourself out there, I think is important. I think that's what holds a lot of people back. So even though you didn't know about a lot of loan programs, you learned about those. And Kyle Seagraves was on with us last week, and Kyle has built his following on YouTube. And
Okay.
same kind of thing. That's how he started. He just started diving into the guides and reading them and then figuring it out and doing videos about it. So
Yeah,
are
that's what
you
I wanted to, that's what I wanted to ask, Jordan. When you said you had the opportunity to learn loans, learn mortgages, was that in the process of creating content about mortgages?
No, I started, I mean, I've always been on social media, but it was more so the generic kind of post from the company that I was working for or
Okay.
the companies I worked for at the time. And then I would make a video every now and then, but nothing to the extent where I'm at now.
Mm.
So I really learned mortgages the end of 2019 and essentially took a crash course all of 2020. And I didn't start really giving it my all for social media until October of 2021. So
Okay.
I had a really great business and worked really hard to learn mortgages prior to that. And then I was able to take all of that information and I was like, I don't feel like anybody's teaching anyone about mortgages. We don't learn it in school. I wish that we did, but unfortunately we don't, at least not right now. And I kind of just took all of that knowledge that I had and keep relaying it into the world, because most of the people, I just got off the phone and this woman's like, there's literally nobody in my family that's ever owned a home. So I have no one to go to. I don't know
Wow.
what to do. And I've been following you for a year and you're the only reliable source of information I have. Can you help me? And it saddens me that that's kind of where we're at right now, but I'm very grateful and I'm so glad that there are platforms where we can be
Yeah.
able to voice and share so much information to help people.
Absolutely. So are you primarily on TikTok?
I am. So majority, I mean, if you look at all the platforms, TikTok blows them all out of the water. There's like over 200,000 followers on there. Whereas if you look at, Facebook, where I'm at like 5,000 followers. So it's definitely, that's where majority of my followers sit and majority of my business from social media ends up coming from.
Jordan, and I've been meaning to ask somebody this question, and I haven't really totally been following it, but TikTok is like always in the news, and I know they're having hearings on it now. What are your thoughts about that? On what do you think about that? Do you feel like there's any risk of that platform like being changed drastically? And
Yeah. So TikTok is very much in the news right now, and if you sit in and you watch the hearings and everything, it dives in deeper than TikTok and regarding just media and information that's out there. And I do think that, without getting political, I do think that TikTok is a fantastic platform to be able to share news that maybe news outlets aren't sharing. They're not getting the highlights that they should. There's information like what I give that people don't learn in school. And so there's a lot of greatness that comes behind TikTok. And then I think just with anything in this world, there's people that use it and for not the greatest reasons. And it hurts the people that are using it for good. So if they do end up changing the backing of it, I do think it will change. The algorithms constantly changing on TikTok anyways, but I do think it'll change the platform. If they end up completely getting rid of TikTok, we started with MySpace, and then it moved to Facebook, and then it was Instagram and Twitter. So they already have other platforms. There's
Absolutely.
Clapper and Lemon8 that are coming out.
I don't even know. I'm so
Yeah.
old. I don't
Yeah.
even,
Well,
yeah, TikTok is definitely a generational phenomenon.
You think so. And that's what I thought as well. But you would be surprised how many like boomers come out and they call me, they'll watch me. And I've had probably at least a dozen loans that were closed from TikTok that are boomers. They're considered boomers.
Danny's
for
seen
like
that
older
too.
millennials as well.
Yeah,
So
Danny saw that when he first started on TikTok. Because when he started, I said the same thing. It's like, oh, it's mostly younger. And Danny is primarily in Spanish market. And his has been very high demographic for women and much older, like mid 40s. So I don't know if
Yeah,
you're seeing.
I when I said that, I meant more in the context of, like, for me, it was MySpace, like, or it was Facebook because of my generation, because they came out. Your generation, the best thing going, the thing that caught on was TikTok. I totally agree with you. I think I mistakenly thought that it was a kids thing, but then again, I thought the Snapchat was too. And then Snapchat I think it might still be out there, but it's not really considered a big marketing platform, even though Gary Vee was touting that it was going to be the marketing platform for years. But that's just how this stuff works, right? It's how it evolves. Okay, no, I like that. I like the way that I like the way that you describe that. I personally, I don't think it's going to go away. And like you said, if it goes away, it's because Americans want to create an app, right? It's like somebody else wants to own it.
there's always something out there.
There's always something out there, and the innovation is going to create a platform, and the skill set that you've developed by learning to share your experience and educate and empower consumers through these platforms is just so unbelievably valuable. Platforms are hit and miss, but the skill set that you're learning, I just love seeing that you're the future of our industry, right? And that you're out there and you're able to get out there and educate people through these methods that consumers are doing it. I mean, I remember when you had to walk into a real estate agent's office to get the book of listings. You know, so it's like I really
In the
love
good
that.
old days. So
What kind of content
Yeah.
content are you getting the most, are you seeing the most feedback on, and did it just surprise you?
So the content that gets the most shares, likes, just engagement overall is going to be what I call my reenactment phone calls. So it's generally me posing as both me and the borrower, and it's going back and forth reenacting either a conversation I've had, a conversation with a borrower that maybe one of my colleagues have told me, or just a story in passing that I've heard. And they generally tend to be a little bit of the more wilder stories, and those are the ones that get a minimum of 100,000 views no matter what. And it's mostly, oh, I can't believe people do that. Are you serious? This can't be real. But they're also meant to educate, because it's like, hey, you can't just put $10,000 cash in your account right before closing and just expect everything to be okay. Or you can't go buy, a car before closing and not expect us to count that as part of your debt. So they're very simple do's and don'ts, but they're very exaggerated when it comes to the video because of the reenactment. So those tend to be the ones that get the most views. But then I also try to answer people's questions through videos that they'll put on as comments. And then I'll also do like PSAs on there. And I'll randomly like throw in a trending sound as well, so that it just kind of gets into the mix. So that's generally the videos that get put together.
What's your average length?
So my average length is probably 90 seconds. And I did long form video before long form video was like a thing on TikTok. Right. And like I came in at the time where trending sounds were still very high up. And that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So it was very hard for me to get like the views on the longer form videos. And now that's what TikTok is pushing. So, which is interesting. But yeah, I'd say probably at least 90 seconds.
Well, and what's interesting, and you said it, the algorithm's always changing and the social media platforms are always chasing. I feel like they're always following each other. You know, YouTube started doing shorts
Mhm.
and they put a big focus on that because TikTok was obviously 90 seconds or less. Then TikTok pushed up to 3 minutes. Now I think they're up to like 9 minutes,
10 minutes on
10
TikTok.
minutes.
It rolled out a while ago, but I just saw it on my, because it's more prominent now. I just saw it where I have the ability to do a 10-minute video. I'm like, that feels like a lot to me, but
Well, and I think the thing you have to find what works for you. You know, we had
Mhm.
Kyle Seagraves on last week. He's big on YouTube. He is all long form and he struggles with doing shorts. And so I think that's the thing that people think that you have to really follow these trends. I think you have to find what works for you
oh, 100%.
and then consistently do it because it's finding your audience. And that's what you've done. You know,
Mhm.
you have found your audience and they follow you. The woman who has been following you for a year and silently watching what you're doing. And this whole time, you've been building a relationship. You have been having a conversation with her, although one sided at the time, to where she felt like she knew you. You're the only person I can trust,
Mhm.
which people don't realize that that can happen by having a video conversation with people over a longer period of time. So the
Of
fact
course.
that you found what works for you, which wasn't the long form, but not really the short form either, because some people do just very short form, but that balance of feeling like you give enough education and you do it consistently.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
often do you shoot?
So generally I batch all of my content. Um, Normally Sunday afternoons, nobody's calling me, open houses are done, nobody really needs a letter anymore. So I generally shoot Sunday afternoons, and depending on how much content I need to do, I'll shoot anywhere. And this is like shooting and editing and changing and all of that, probably anywhere from 2 to 4 hours.
So you're doing everything. You're doing the
Yeah.
editing, you're putting the sounds in, you're
Mhm.
looking for those trending sounds. Do you look for what's trending on Sunday or do you kind of do that throughout the week?
No, it goes throughout the week.
Okay.
So when I jump on every day, I'll post my video, and then later in the day when I'm looking through comments and notifications to see if there's any questions I need to answer or anything, I'll go through as well and look at if there's any trending sounds, if there's any trending topics that are coming up, and then I'll mark them. I'll kind of bookmark them I have a folder on TikTok, just like Instagram, Facebook, they all have them, but I have a mortgage folder that I bookmark everything. And then on Sundays, I'll go through before I decide what I want to film. And I'll see, okay, how many questions am I answering? Are there, how many sounds are there going to be? What calls am I going to have? And so if there's anything that happens during the week in person, like people having crazy phone conversations with me, I have a separate book where I write all that down.
Mm.
Nice. So
Yeah.
Danny's asking, what's the next platform that you would consider? And you mentioned a couple of them. So let's say, okay, TikTok. And we're all, by the way, watching the hearings. Danny Ruiz, who's going to be on next week, wrote the book on TikTok for mortgage and real estate, which congratulations, Danny. It hit #1 for new releases on Amazon. And he took his process down. Now, we've been watching the hearing saying, okay, do we put the book out? Should we wait and see? And we decided just to go ahead and release it. But what would you choose? Like, okay, Jordan, this one's going to be gone. Are you watching anything right now where you're like, okay, I'll move over here?
Yeah, so I made a Clapper account, and then there's also Lemon 8, which is Lemon 8 looks aesthetically like a Pinterest board, but it's a mixture of like an Instagram feed and a TikTok feed. So aesthetically, it's
Oh,
very
interesting.
pleasing, but you have the ability to post video and photos, but it, like I said, it kind of looks like that. It looks like
Photo.
it's pinned, on Pinterest. So that I haven't made an account just yet. I have it downloaded. So I need to take some time this weekend to set an account up. Clapper I've done as well. And it's Clapper feels, now I didn't start TikTok. I've been on it forever. I just haven't posted prior to 2021 really and gotten into it. But Clapper apparently is what TikTok was circa like 2019, 2020, where it was very raw and real, and anything kind of went. So I have that one, and I've only posted a couple videos on there. So I'm kind of watching to see how things are going to go with TikTok.
Yeah. And it's hard. And I think TikTok has been the only one that, I mean, obviously Facebook has had its time, in DC, and they all do. And I think for those that are looking at getting started, and I've had conversations about, posting on TikTok or Instagram, and they're like, oh, I'm staying away from TikTok. It's like, you have to find what's going to work for you.
That's right.
And not be afraid of what's happening. And so that's a big thing. So if those are things that are coming up, I would love to put together, honestly, it's like an entire like live workshop with you and Danny, and we've got Theoni, and it's like Kyle, because you're the next generation. And, Jordan, I mean, we talked about for you specifically, being on stage and being able to share that expertise because you are an educator. And so I think you will find no matter what platform comes out, you will succeed on it. So I'm not worried about the platforms. But
Yeah.
Jordan,
I have to look at what is the platform? What should someone look at? So it's like, okay, if I don't want to get started on Facebook, what would be, you're looking at Clapper and you're looking at Lemonade. So what's the number one thing for you to say, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger on that one?
So it would be, which one do you feel like? Clapper feels more like if you're just trying to get into it, and because it's not this, you don't have to worry about editing, aesthetically being pleasing. Like, how do I put all these extra bells and whistle on a video or a photo? It's just like, hey, I want to just get that information out there, and I want to be myself, and I want to be out there and educate. Would be more so Clapper. Now, which one's going to take off better, I'm not quite sure yet. But Lemon 8 feels more like, okay, aesthetically, I've been able to build up this following. I know how to edit and do all of these things. So I already have the ideas behind it. And I know that I'm going to be able to make this content very eye-catching. So that feels like it's going to be more for the seasoned, influencer or content creator. So we'll see which one pans out more, and like really ends up taking off. But you still have Facebook, there's Instagram, there's YouTube Shorts. So all of my content I repurpose for all of the other platforms.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
It's interesting because the things that do fantastic on TikTok don't do that well anywhere else. They do horrible everywhere else. But it's just interesting. You kind of have to play with it and see what works until because sounds do better on my sounds do better on my Instagram than they do on TikTok. And questions tend to do better on TikTok than they do on Facebook. So it's just kind of playing with and testing it out. You're not going to be perfect at the beginning. I've been doing this for years now, and I'm still trying to figure out which ones are going to take certain content.
And sometimes you never know. It's like, you just never know. So a quick question, Cassie's asking, do you find Snapchat or Be Real to be useful?
I've not used Snapchat for many years, so I'm not well versed on, and even when I had it, I was like, I don't really know how to use this. I don't feel like it's worth it. Be Real, if I'm not mistaken, it's like you have to take a picture. You have a certain amount of time to take a picture of what it is that you're doing in that moment on the front camera and the back camera. So And if I'm wrong, that's the only thing that I'm aware of it. So if there's more to it, then I could see it working in your benefit where you have the ability to post other things. But if it's just a photo of what you're doing in that moment, it doesn't feel like you're going to be able to build an audience with that.
And that's a lot of it is, you remember when you're doing this, it is to build an audience. It is to educate. And Scott, you always talk about, everything we do for education is to keep consumers out of call centers.
Yeah.
Because the more that we do as an industry to educate, then the less likely they're going to end up in a call center, and more likely to end up calling someone like you, Jordan, who's like, I've been following you. You're the only person I trust. And so you're able to, build that relationship. And
Well,
so
and here's the
really important.
beauty of this is, you talked about finding your audience. I would argue that you don't find an audience, the audience finds you.
Mhm.
And the platform is just the medium. It's just the communication channel.
Mhm.
And there is no right answer. Like Jordan does really, really well on this platform because she's educating these people, but that education can go anywhere. It's just the fact that you did it and you're getting out there. And it doesn't matter if TikTok is the next big thing, because TikTok might be your MySpace. And in 5 years from now, you're going to talk about, hey, remember when TikTok came out, how silly and immature that thing was? And now we've got this thing or whatever. We don't know, but it's that mindset that you have, that I have all this information and I know my peers don't know this because it's not being taught. Nobody's telling anybody about this. And this is something I'm curious about because I say this all the time and I believe it with all my heart, but sometimes I still want the validation. My experience is the people that contact you, it's not because you solved their specific problem. It's that you've demonstrated that you're a problem solver. And so they call you and they say, hey, I keep seeing you solve all these problems. Here's mine. Has that been your experience?
Yeah. So in my TikTok, well, on all of them, TikTok, everywhere, there's the ability to schedule a call with me. If you were just like, I don't know if I'm ready to necessarily buy or not, but I just need you to maybe answer a few questions.
Like a calendar link?
Yep. So there's a Calendly link and they have the ability to do like a 15 or a 30-minute consult call with me. And we kind of just dive really deep into what it is that they're needing questions answered on. And so you'd be surprised how many people, I mean, today I have 5 phone calls outside of the one that I already did. And it could be anywhere. I've had as few as 1 and I've had as many as 10 in a day, because people are just like, they'll call me and say, Jordan, okay, I saw this TikTok and you helped this guy with this particular problem, or you answered this question and that pertains to me. I feel like it would work. Can you tell me if it would? It's the fact that I've been able to show individuals that I can help people and I know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And I may not know exactly your situation or your problem. I may have to troubleshoot it, but for the most part, I've been able to answer everybody's questions and help guide them and say, hey, you have the option to do it this way, or this way. And let's figure out which one works the best for you. But any of them will get you to the end game. And I feel like people like that. And I explain it to them and I talk to them as if it's the biggest purchase of their life and they don't understand what it is that they're doing, because there's not been one person that I've closed a loan for that's a mortgage officer or a processor or an underwriter. They're just regular me and you kind of people that walk around every day and have jobs that don't have to do with mortgages. And they are so consumed. There's so much information out there and they get very overwhelmed and they're like, I just need somebody to explain it to me in the simplest terms and make me feel like I understand what it is that I'm doing, because it is the largest purchase that I've ever made in my life. And I think a lot of loan officers, at least from the people that talk to me that have worked or at least started with other loan officers, they'll say, you're the first person that explained that to me. You're the first person that gave me any advice on what to do for my credit cards. They just said, yeah, you got to get your credit up. And I'm like, what do you mean? If you don't know how to do it, you need somebody to explain it to you.
Exactly.
So I think video is just really fantastic because you have the ability, we're all over the US right now, but we're having this great conversation.
Mhm.
And that's possible by being on a video chat. Even though it's live, it's still video, and we get to build this relationship and have this great conversation. And I think that's so important, especially after COVID, with everyone kind of being separated. Video really took off at that point. So I really hope TikTok doesn't get banned, but if it does, then we keep moving forward and we
Keep
find another
moving.
platform to keep educating people on.
Yeah.
Well, you're passionate and you care and you wear your heart on your sleeve, and video is fantastic for that because you just get to be you. If you were out there, I mean, there's a big difference between educating and selling. And educating is what I think consumers really need and they really want, because we have this whole thing where the internet brought us all closer together, but it didn't. It also made us a lot further apart. And I think we really crave real, genuine human connection. And you bring that with you when you communicate. And I think that's really, really important. I mean, these platforms are important because there are audiences there, but you being able to be yourself and be a genuine person and wearing your heart on your sleeve like that is, I'd say that's a large percentage of the response that you've been getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I want to have you back again because we didn't even get into your branding, which I love, but I want you to go ahead and share because we are at the top of the hour, a little beyond. And so how can people find you, Ms. Jordan?
Yep. So my last name is Nutter, and I decided to play on my last name. So instead of another, it's a Nutter Home Loan. And so it's ANUTTER and then Home Loan. And so that's on every platform.
I love it. It's brilliant. A Nutter Home Loan.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that's for our next conversation, because the branding on that, I think, is key. Because it makes it easy for people to remember you as well. And so I love that, and great play on your name.
Thank you.
Very good. So Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. It's great seeing you again. Congratulations on your beautiful Charlie.
I appreciate that.
I look forward to seeing you again sometime. And I hope you'll come back. So we'd love to have you back.
I would love to.
Very good. Well, good. Well, we will be back next Wednesday, same time, same place, and we're going to continue our conversation about TikTok. So, Jordan, if you want to hop on, you can. We have Danny Ruiz and Theoni Rappo, and they both, like you, have been on TikTok, and they're going to be sharing some of their success with it as well. So thanks for joining in. Jordan, thank you so much. Scott, thank you so much, and we will see you next Wednesday. And the most important thing is go make a video.
Thank you.